Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is vlog number 14. So today we're at the Rest and Be Thankful. We're at the very top. You probably see the car shaking about just now. It's incredibly windy. This is probably the windiest conditions I have ever been in Scotland. There wasn't forecast to be high wind today, but obviously we're at the top of a valley, so we're just catching all that wind and it is hitting the car head on, so I can't even go outside and vlog just now. I have gone outside and fought with the wind with the tripod to try and get a picture. I've managed to get a really awesome panorama of the whole valley. What that's going to do is it's going to take you into the subject of today's video, which is different types of composition. There aren't just one or two different ways you can make up your compositions. Obviously there's probably about 20 different ways you can do it, but today I'm going to try and concentrate on about 7 or 8 different ways you can build your compositions and how you can make them. This photograph, first of all, is a very simple panorama, probably going to be a 16:9 crop. I've also put a polarizer on just to intensify the saturation in the sky to give it a little bit more of a bluer colour to it as well, because there's clouds. Because of the high wind, the clouds are passing over really quickly. This photograph is made up of leading lines. There's a nice, really awesome S-curve. You can't see it from here, but outside there's an awesome S-curve being created by a road, which then goes down into the valley, which then takes you up to the mountains. So we're going to talk about quite a few different types of compositions today, and we're going to move up to Loch Fyne next. And on the road, we have no plan for today, so we're just going to stop and try and see how many different pictures we can get using these different types of compositions. So it's going to be quite fun. Let's go on to location number 2. I'm going to have to keep this bit very brief because it's incredibly windy today. It was supposed to be 10-mile-an-hour winds and it's blown an absolute gale up here, so the wind and the audio on this part will be terrible just now. I apologise for that in advance. And we're going to go from here to Loch Long. There's a pier down there that I want to photograph, so we're going to go down there just now and find out. We're just about to hit golden hour in about half an hour, so hopefully that will give us the right kind of light. The composition for this picture I've just taken is all about foreground interest. So I found these massive boulders which then leads to this gorgeous loch. I'll do a quick pan and show you. Well, it's not really a loch, it's more of a loch-in, and then you've got the hills in the background which you've got gorgeous dappled light on them. So this is a sort of mixture of two types of compositions. You've got an S-bend over there, which is leading up to the mountains, and you've also got the foreground interest here, which is then leading you to the loch, which the whole picture comes together really nicely. There's a little bit of that golden hour light, almost, you can see it starting to the light's changing, it's getting quite hazy. So we're going to move on to Loch Long and find out what we can get down there. So this is Loch Long, just up from well, it's actually in Argyll. Behind me you've got a couple of different sort of styles of compositions. You've got the leading lines from the pier stocks coming out of the water, then you also have the pier itself, and then you also have a reflection, which is a symmetrical shot, which is symmetry is a form of composition as well, and then you've got a good bit of detail in the sky as well. So you can also see the cobbler, which is Ben Arthur, just behind there as well, so that's also reflecting in the water. So there's a couple of different layers here as well. I'm not sure how it's going to look. The light isn't at best at the moment. There's literally no light hitting the hills at the moment at all, but most of the light seems to be streaming through the cracks in the valleys, which is just over there. So we're going to head to another location and see if we can catch the last bit of the golden hour, and then hopefully we'll get a nice sunset, but we've not quite decided where that last location is yet, so stay tuned. It's Baltic. Having a coffee break. I've stopped at a place called Firkin Point. and I got some shots down there. I couldn't vlog down there because there was tons of folk down camping for they've also got the permits because it's the start of the camping season. They must be insane because it is freezing just now. So I've just stopped off to have a coffee, and I'm going to wait about for about another hour or two. The sky is very, very clear, which is making me quite hopeful for some astrophotography. If the clouds come in, I'll probably just head home because I am absolutely freezing cold. No amount of coffee seems to be heating me up in Baltic. So I got some shots down at the place called Firkin Point. No, I'm not swearing. It's Firkin Point it's called. But the other shot I got was the last of the sunset, which was absolutely gorgeous. It was lovely. The sky was a very subtle pastel tone of pinky oranges and stuff like that, so it was very, very subtle. But well worth capturing anyway. I like the fact that I still managed to get some of the crashing waves coming in. I didn't realise Loch Lomond had such a sort of tidal aspect to it. The wind's hitting it. The wind's really high today, as I said, so the wind's obviously pushing that in, and it was creating these amazing lines across the water. So I managed to grab some leading lines out of that shot as well, which kind of ties in with today's video. Yeah, so I'll probably have to wrap this back up at my desk once I process my photographs. But yeah, the sort of gist of today's video was really talking about different types of composition, as you know, and there's about 8 different types that I really want to speak about, but obviously I can't really talk about them until I have the shot to show the example of what they look like. I've been trying really hard to get those sorts of compositions, but the wind has been kicking my butt today with regards to vlogging it and trying to explain what I'm doing and why I'm setting up certain shots. So I'll jump back to my desk and have a look at the photos. Hello, it's now Sunday. I'm processing my images just now. I've just finished. I've managed to come away with 6 pictures that kind of emphasise what I was trying to talk about in the video. The wind was horrendous yesterday. It was 30-mile-an-hour gusts, which doesn't seem that bad until you're standing at the top of a valley. Then you pretty much literally get blown off your feet. So I managed to get 6 pictures, which I'm quite happy with. And they do sort of demonstrate the different types of composition that I was trying to talk about. The first picture, which is taken at the Rest and Be Thankful, was obviously a very classic example of an S-curve and how they can also be used as leading lines to sort of lead you into an image as well. It's a picture that I've never taken before. I wasn't aware this road was there. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. It kind of reminds me a bit of the Bailick-na-Ba Road in Applecross, and I'm probably going to try and replicate this style of photograph when I go back there to do the North Coast 500 hopefully this summer. The Bailick-na-Ba is also a very, very windy road. It almost looks like a snake road when you see it in a panoramic. It's absolutely brilliant. It's really good fun to drive as well. I wasn't aware that it was there, but I'm also very glad it was because it did provide a fantastic leading line up to the valley and up to the mountains, and it just looks phenomenal. There's this beautiful haze coming across because it was sort of mid-afternoon sun. I think we got there about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, so there was this lovely haze just sort of streaming through the mountains. Managed to capture some of that in the photograph as well. Very difficult picture to take. I was literally getting blown off my feet, so I had the big heavy Manfrotto Tripod, anchoring everything and putting all my weight into it to hold it down so that it wouldn't get any sort of camera shake, because all it takes is one gust of wind and your panorama's ruined. So it took a lot of practice and a couple of attempts to try and get this picture, but I'm very glad that I did. So again, as I was exploring this area, I've never been here before. Well, I haven't been to this part before. I was driving down a road. I think it was on the way to Dunoon, I'm not sure. Don't know why I was going to Dunoon. So it's very much a single track road on a windy road, and I had to drive to the bottom of one half of the road and then look back up on the bit that I'd just driven down, if that makes any sense. And there was this gorgeous light kind of coming between this tree and the road and this massive mountain behind it. So obviously I just stopped the car, jumped out, grabbed the camera, took a very quick picture, and this is the one I ended up with, which I'm actually quite happy with. It's got some beautiful colours in it, because also we're not quite in summer yet, so all that greenery hasn't quite erupted back into life yet. So a lot of it was very browns and reds from autumn that were still kind of hanging about, and then in the background you had the evergreens and the firs, which were beautiful kind of dark green colour. So there's a lovely contrast between the two colours here. This photo also has a bit of an S-curve in it, because the road that I was trying to use to lead you up to the tree, which then led you up to the mountains, is visible in the bottom third of the picture. So I'm quite happy this sort of demonstrates as well another sort of form of composition, which obviously they're not rules, they're more guidelines, but I tend to always have them in my mind when I'm framing pictures. So the third picture I got was on the other side of the road from the Rest and Be Thankful. It's a sort of a very small lock-in across the road. which then looks over to some beautiful mountains. There's almost like layers of mountains there as well. I managed to find some massive boulders to use in the foreground, and then obviously up the back of the image you have the road. There's a few different elements going on here. There's obviously the loch, and there's the mountains, and there's a road, and the main focal point is obviously the rocks in the foreground. And this is another type I was talking about, or trying to talk about on location, which was foreground interest, which also provides you with another way of composing your images. You find something beautiful in the foreground which then leads you in. This is a really good example of using foreground interest as well. As I was driving back through to Argyll, I was looking for a particular pier. I couldn't find that pier. I did find this pier, which is a sort of completely broken, fallen apart, looks fantastic, very dilapidated pier. The sun was sort of just skimming across top of it, so it meant I could get my ND filters out, put a nice long exposure on it, try and isolate that pier a little bit more, and then also exposing for the mountains in the background and the sky as well. So I'm quite happy with this image. I call this more of a centered composition, because I've pretty much, rather than placing or giving the photograph any foreground, I wanted all of the viewer's eye to go straight to the centre of the image, which was the pier. So I think it was F11 I shot this image at, to get everything relatively in focus from front to back. They're fantastic subjects because they contrast so well with the water, especially if you have some beautiful light hitting it as well. The last destination that I went to on this road trip was Loch Lomond. You can't beat Loch Lomond. There's tons and tons of places you can literally go and explore up there. There's also the two sides of the loch, so you've got the River Dennon side, which I've photographed before and I've obviously vlogged that before, and this time I was on this side of the loch at a place called Firkin Point, and no, I'm not swearing, I'll put the spelling up here, but this is Firkin Point. This is a viewpoint from there. There's a camping management zone here, so you can actually camp here if you get a permit, and there were 2 tents there already. Brave people, because it was going down to 2 degrees last night. I do not fancy sleeping in weather like that. I hate being cold while I'm camping, so they were very brave, but they were sitting laughing at me while I was trying to get this picture. And I was chasing that last bit of colour in the sky. I got here about 20 minutes before sunset, and obviously the sun was setting behind the mountains, so I had very limited time. Even though I had technically longer, I had very limited time until the sun dropped behind the mountains and completely vanquished all the light. So I managed to get this picture. The colours in this one are lovely. I'm really pleased with it. So I decided to use the water, like the actual lines in the water, as leading lines, and I think it's worked. I quite like it. Yeah, there's one break in particular that leads you all the way. It kind of comes in like a sweeping motion, and it sweeps round till it gets to the mountains at the very back, and it just looks fantastic. And there was still a bit of colour left in the sky. Obviously it's not as colourful and as vibrant as the previous picture. Very subtle, very pastel tones. I'm quite happy with it. There are 6 pictures there that have completely different styles, completely different compositions. It's been quite a mixture of things. What I'm going to try and explore in the next few videos are things like negative space, isolating subjects using negative space. I love that type of photography. It's very minimalist, and I'm quite drawn to that sort of photography. So the other type of composition I'll be looking at probably in next week's video is symmetry. Obviously symmetry can come in many forms. Most people associate symmetry with bridges or piers. Don't know why I'm doing that, I'm playing an accordion. But for me it could be flipped, so you could have it on its side, it could be reflections, it could be anything. So I'm looking to try and find compositions next week which involve negative space and symmetry. So obviously these things are there as guidelines. I wouldn't really consider them to be hard fast rules, and if they are hard fast rules, I think it's fair to say we all probably break them anyway. So this is what I've learned from developing my own style, and maybe there's some that you haven't considered, maybe there's some that you hadn't thought of in a different way. I hope it's helpful, maybe. So once again, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm still really enjoying making these videos, and I hope you enjoy watching them. I hope you'll tune in again next week for the next video, and until then, I'll see you soon. Bye!